Welcome to part 2 of Navigating Therapeutic Behavioral Consultation. In this part of the training, we will discuss getting started with providing therapeutic behavioral consultation services and maintaining clients. This training is specific to behavioral consultation services and not other services provided under therapeutic consultation, such as speech therapy, OT, PT, psychology, or any other service. Trainees will be provided with a basic overview along with related resources. During this portion of the training, we will discuss authorization types, the use of WaMS, and other required documentation. Here is a quick timeline for starting a new client. First, a support coordinator will reach out to you about an individual needing services. You will determine if you can serve that individual. If you accept the individual, you will notify the support coordinator, who will then open the individual to you in WaMS. We will discuss WaMS a little bit later in this training. You can then add a service authorization line in WaMS. Once you have accepted an individual to begin services, request a referral form and additional intake paperwork from the CSB support coordinator. This may include, but is not limited to, the support's intensity scale, psychological reports, the Virginia Individual Developmental Disability Eligibility Survey, the Individual Support Plan, and any other assessments that would be helpful for plan development. Third, you will complete the Part 5 Plan for Supports and other required documentation, including a schedule of supports where you will request how many hours it will take to complete the service. You will receive a notification through WaMS when the service has been approved. You can also log back into WaMS to check the status. Then you can begin providing services to that individual. There are 3 authorization types for therapeutic behavioral consultation: the initial, secondary authorization, and annual renewal. The initial request for behavioral consultation may not be authorized for more than 180 days. This is specific to when the individual is receiving behavioral services for the first time from any behavioral provider, as well as if the individual transfers to another behavioral provider. During this 180 days, it is expected that the behaviorist would be able to complete the FBA, develop the initial BSP, and set up a system of data collection. The rationale for the 180-day timeline is to improve timely creation of behavior support plans, as well as to align with industry expectations for timeliness of FBA and BSP development. The 180-day timeline will only be extended under extenuating circumstances. Key information that the behaviorist must submit includes the following: Part 5 that outlines a plan for completing the FBA, creating a behavior support plan and an indication that there will be data collected as part of this assessment, and behavior support plan development process. It is expected that the FBA will consist of some component of direct observation by the behaviorist. It is recommended to not start the service until an authorization has been approved, as there is no way to back bill. The secondary authorization request, which immediately follows the initial authorization, lasts until the ISP annual date. This will need to include the BSP and FBA results, as well as baseline data and/or graphical displays. The Part 5 also needs to include a request for training hours. The Part 5 or the BSP needs measurable benchmarks for targeted behaviors. The annual authorization stretches from ISP year to ISP year. For any ISP authorizations, the following are required: graphs, behavior support plan, functional behavior assessment, request for training in the Part 5, documentation of training to include at least one training done in the most recent authorization period. The Part 5 or the BSP needs measurable benchmarks for targeted behaviors. For the FBA, please note the following. As part of the shared planning meeting, the behaviorist must review the FBA and treatment data and determine if the functions are still valid. A reassessment of the functions of behavior is required when data suggests treatment expectations are not being met or there's been a significant change in status of the individual that is negatively impacting outcomes. The review of the continued validity of the FBA must be documented by the behaviorist in documentation submitted for an authorization request. If reassessment is needed, this must be requested in the Part 5. Once you are ready to submit your authorization, you will need to ask the support coordinator to open a service authorization to assign you to the current ISP in WaMS. You will not be able to see the client in WaMS until the support coordinator adds you. Once the support coordinator adds you as a provider, you should receive an alert with a link to the service authorization. You can then add your service authorization line and complete your Part 5 plan for supports. You can also access it by clicking the Service Authorization tab and searching for the individual. Search results appear in the list below. You can also locate all service authorizations using the My List tab. Click View next to the individual you are adding services for. For more information, see the tips and tricks for WaMS users located in the Training Manuals, Webinars, and FAQ section of the WaMS homepage. Once you click View, you will see this screen. Scroll down to Service Details, then click Add. The Create Service Authorization Overview window then appears. In the Service Detail drop-down menu, choose the correct service. If you practice as a behavior analyst, LBA, or LABA, choose Therapeutic Consultation, Therapist, Behavior Analyst, Rehab Engineer, code 97139. If you are a Positive Behavior Supports Facilitator, choose the Therapeutic Consultation, Other Professionals, code 97530. Answer the question, is this for behavioral services? It should be yes if you're providing therapeutic behavioral consultation. Add the justification with the targeted behaviors, plan for treatment, and why the individual needs the service. The start date must be the date the authorization is entered or later. For initial authorizations, you have up to 180 days from the start for the duration of the authorization. For secondary and annual authorizations, the end date is the ISP end date. Units are hours per year. Do not add any decimals, as a unit of service is an hour. Base the number of hours on your experience and the needs of the individual. Next, you will enter the Part 5 information. The Part 5 plan for supports is created by the providers. Parts 1 through 4 are completed by the support coordinator. As soon as the support coordinator adds an outcome for you, the provider, in Part 3, you will have access to and can start working on your Part 5 in WaMS. Information for the Part 5 is automatically populated from the Part 3. Please note that if the current ISP is locked, you will need to complete an interim ISP. You can choose to complete a Part 5 complete use or a Part 5 modified use. Instructions on how to complete the Part 5 in WaMS are located in the Training Manuals, Webinars, and FAQ section on the WaMS homepage. Scroll down to Providers and open the ISP 4.0 User Guide. As mentioned on the previous slide, you can enter your Part 5 in two ways: complete use or modified use. Here is a table that illustrates the information that must be entered into WaMS interface for each type of Part 5. If you choose modified use, the additional information that is not required in WaMS should be located on a separate Part 5 document that is uploaded to the attachment section of the ISP. If the ISP is still open, you can add your Part 5 plan for supports to it. If it is closed, you will need to complete an interim plan for supports. We will show you how to complete this a little later. Use the Alerts or My List tabs to search for the individual and open the individual support plan. Next to Part 5 Plan for Supports, select Add. When the Add Plan for Support dialog box appears, click Continue. On the Part 5 Plan for Support summary page, click Edit next to the service and outcomes and enter the information. Remember, if you're doing a modified Part 5, you only need to fill in the areas with an asterisk. The other information should be on a separate document that is uploaded to the attachment section. Click Add Outcome at the top right and select the desired outcome from the drop-down menu. You'll see that some of the information auto-populates from the Part 3. Click in each field to type the appropriate information. Once all the required information is added, click Add New and then Save. You can refer to the chart for modified use versus complete use for the required information. Continue with this process to add additional outcomes. You'll need to add as many outcomes as are assigned to you in the Part 3. When adding another outcome, you'll need to scroll past the last one entered to enter information on the next outcome. Otherwise, you'll type over what you just entered. Note, if you disagree with an outcome, contact the support coordinator to discuss and resolve. If alternating wording is needed, the language can be corrected in the revisions after completing the initial Part 5. If you need to edit an outcome, refer to the ISP 4.0 User Guide on how to do that. Once all of the outcomes are added to the Part 5, you can move on to add the essential supports, general schedule of supports, and signatures, and upload the additional documents required for the authorization period. Next, you will need to complete the essential support section. This is new to ISP 4.0. The support coordinator enters the information from the Risk Assessment Tool, or RAT for short, into the ISP, and it is automatically generated in the Part 5. Check out the link for more information on what to include in this section as a therapeutic behavioral consultant. This section is divided into three areas: identified risks, potential risks, and routine supports. Identified risks and potential risks must be addressed by each provider. Click on Edit and the Essential Supports window will appear. Once the Essential Support window appears, click on the Identified Risk drop-down arrow to select the risk. Note, you will not be able to save the Part 5 Essential Support section until all risks from the Part 3 have been added to the Part 5. Click on the How Often drop-down arrow to select the frequency. Click in the How to Support field to add a narrative on how you would address that risk. For therapeutic behavioral consultation, there may be risks that are not related to behavior services. If that is the case, in this section, you could state something like, the consultant will follow the agency's fall protocol. If the risk is something you are addressing with your services, you could say something like, the risk is addressed in the attached behavior support plan. See the link for the tips document discussed on a previous slide. Fill in the begin date and end date. These should align with your authorization request dates. Click Add New and repeat the process until all identified risks have been addressed. Once you complete the identified risk, you'll want to address any potential risk and possibly routine supports. Potential risks are identified via the secondary questions in the Part 3. Potential risks are added to the Part 5 in the same manner as the identified risk. Again, refer to the link on a previous slide for tips on what information to include. When routine supports are carried over from Part 3, shared planning, into Part 5, providers should focus on identifying which supports are relevant to the specific services and settings. Unlike risks, which should be addressed by all providers, routine supports only need to be addressed if they are applicable to the provider's service or setting. Routine supports are added to Part 5 in the same manner as the identified and potential risks. Next, you will add the general schedule of supports. This is just an estimate. You can take the monthly hours, divide by 4, reflect for 1 week on the schedule, and then add a comment at the bottom that says something like, days of the service provision are subject to change based on the individual's preference and needs. Remember, if you are completing the Modified Use Part 5, you will only need to fill out the required sections and then include the additional information in a separate document. Then complete the signature section. Refer to the ISP 4.0 user guide for step-by-step instructions on how to complete these sections. Once all the required sections of the Part 5 have been entered and finalized, the blue circles will be completely filled in. You can then complete the Part 5. Click on Complete. When the confirmation dialog box appears, click Continue, which will change the status to completed, and the Revise button will become available. Click Back to Summary to view the main ISP summary page. You can expand the Part 5 Plan for Support section to see details and status information. If you need to revise the Part 5, refer to the ISP 4.0 User Guide for step-by-step instructions on how to do that. Once you complete the Part 5, you can start uploading attachments. There are 2 areas in WaMS to upload attachments, in the Person's Information section and in the ISP. We're going to talk about documents that should be uploaded directly under the ISP Attachment section. If you completed the modified Part 5, you need to upload the additional documents with the required information before the service can be authorized. You will upload them to this ISP Attachment section. If this is a secondary or annual authorization, you will also need to upload the completed FBA and BSP for the individual in the same section. When you are ready to upload your documents, go to the individual support plan. From the attachment section in the ISP, select Upload Attachments. The new document upload window will then appear. Click on Attach File and browse to locate the attachment to upload. Select the file to upload and click Open. The file name will appear on the Attach File button. Click the category down arrow and select Therapeutic Consultation. In Comments, label the document with the individual's first initial and last name and the document name or description, i.e., J. Doe Initial Assessment Plan for Supports and Schedule, or J. Doe Behavior Support Plan. As mentioned earlier, if the ISP is closed, you will need to complete an interim plan for supports. For example, if services start in the middle of a plan year, the ISP will be closed. This will most likely be the case during initial authorizations and secondary authorizations that do not align with the ISP start date. Note, you should review the current shared plan to identify outcomes you will address with the person. Simply click on the Part 3 heading to expand and view outcomes added by the support coordinator. Additional outcomes will be added as necessary. To complete the interim plan for supports, while in the individual's record, click on Programs, Interim Plan for Supports, click Create New, and the provider search box appears. Click on Search. Once the provider search box appears, click Search again, and the provider's information should appear. Click Select, and the Select Provider dialog box reappears with the selected provider listed in the provider field. Click Continue. The Interim Plan for Support summary page appears with the status in progress. You should complete the interim plan for supports in the same manner by using either the complete use or the modified use methods. Note that essential supports will pre-populate, but outcomes will not. Relevant outcomes will need to be manually transferred from the Part 3 into the interim plan for supports, while adding any additional outcomes agreed to by the individual or guardian. Once the authorization is approved and you begin providing services, there are additional documents required. Some of these documents that are required for therapeutic behavioral consultation are progress notes, quarterly summaries, annual reviews, and final disposition summaries. For more details on all required documentation, refer to the TC Regulations and Provider Manual. Ongoing progress notes are required for documentation of rendered consultative services. Write your notes in a way that captures the allowable activities. You can write the notes per contact, or you could do a monthly note and list all of your contacts in one note. They must be contemporaneously signed and dated. They also must identify each contact, including location and recipient of training activities, the amount of time spent on the activity, what was accomplished, and the professional who made the contact and rendered the service. Quarterly reviews are necessary if the service extends 3 months or longer. These reviews need to align with the individual's ISP date. The provider's first quarterly may be less than 3 months in order to line up with the individual's ISP date. Quarterlies should have information that pertains to the effectiveness of the services and any significant events. When appropriate, the individual or caregiver satisfaction with the services and other input should be included, along with changes in desired outcomes. Quarterly reports should include graph data and a summary of the data. The quarterly reviews can be sent to the support coordinator or uploaded directly to WaMS. Make sure you communicate with your CSBs on how you plan to get them the quarterly reviews. Providers have a 10-day grace period from the end of the quarter to get the information to the support coordinator. If the consultation service extends beyond 1 year or when there are changes to the plan for supports, the plan for supports must be reviewed by the provider with the individual and their team. These annual team meetings should occur 6 to 8 weeks prior to the effective date of the ISP. Annual reviews are submitted to the support coordinator for service authorization and must include graph data or table data that are trended across the first 3 quarters. Complete a final disposition summary if you are stopping services or discontinuing services. Make sure to discuss termination of services with the team and submit written notice at least 10 days prior to discharge. Contemporaneously sign and date it and submit your final disposition summary within 30 days. Summary should include strategies that were utilized, objectives met, unresolved issues, and the consultant's recommendations. When you complete your quarterly reviews and disposition summaries, you can upload them into WaMS. These documents are not required to be uploaded to WaMS. However, it will help with quality reviews and may be easy for the support coordinator. Remember, there are two areas in WaMS where documents can be uploaded. Do not upload quarterly reviews and disposition summaries in the ISP attachment section. Instead, this information should be uploaded to the Person's Information attachment section in the ISP related category. That is where the support coordinator should look for that information. Click Attachments, and when the attachment window appears, select Upload File. Once the new document upload dialog box appears, click Choose File to browse and locate the attachment you want to upload, and then click Open. Click the category down arrow and select ISP Related. Type a description in the comments field and click Continue. Repeat these steps to add additional attachments. This concludes Part 2 of Navigating Therapeutic Behavioral Consultation. As a reminder, PowerPoint slides with links can be accessed under the Training Videos tab on the Behavioral Services page website. Next up, in Part 3, we will be discussing DBHDS and DMAS regulations. DBHDS, DMAS, Practice Guidelines, and BSPARI, and Human Rights.